So I just want to give you a real quick update in terms of positioning that we're setting up for next week. That's the idea, right? Is to position ourselves for the appropriate rate of change for the coming of what we anticipate to be happening within markets. First and foremost, remember we believe in quad 2. The market is sniffing out a continued movement into quad 2, which again is growth with accelerating inflation. But because accelerating inflation is a very large part of that movement within the second quadrant of our GIP model, which is growth, inflation, and policy, the movement of the dollar is a big deal. And so the dollar is very oversold. In fact, this morning, Friday, which was a shortened day for Wall Street in general, and a shortened week, of course, with the holiday in general, with Thanksgiving, which I hope everyone had a wonderful, enjoyable Thanksgiving with friends and family. And so therefore, what we want to do is make sure we're positioning ourselves correctly for the movement of the dollar. And so what happened both Wednesday and then today's shortened trading session is the dollar hit the low of the mathematical range. The calculated low on the dollar was 91.81. It closed at 91.80. So the dollar is very, very oversold. VIX and VXN, which are the S&P 500 volatility measurements and the NASDAQ volatility measurements, hit the low end of their ranges at 2101 for the VIX, for example. The range for the VIX is 21 to 26. So what does that mean? It means the chop, right? It means that when volatility goes up, prices in markets will likely come down. As the US dollar goes up, prices for commodities and in general equity markets, because of embedded inverse correlations, will come down. So we think we're going to have a really great buying opportunity in the next few days with market movement. We think that it just wouldn't surprise me a bit to see the dollar rally some, which will give us an opportunity to short more, because I think it's headed a lot lower. It'll likely bring some of the soft agricultural commodities like corn, wheat, soybeans, and certainly some of the protein complex with cattle and hogs down, which will give us an opportunity to buy more. We'll likely see some of the metals, such as copper and palladium, come down, which again will give us an opportunity to buy more. The math on Friday morning, this morning, showed that we had about a 3.1% downside to a 0.3% upside in the NASDAQ. So we took some profits, just basically minimized our risk exposure because of the probability of all these things combined. The US dollar likely to see a rally, VIX and VIXN likely to see a rally. Those kinds of things all add up to help us to identify when we should start to lessen some exposure. And next week, if we get the movement to the downside that we think is likely in prices, because we'll get a movement to the upside in dollars and in volatility, we can get much, much, much bigger in our positions, positioning correctly for that quad 2 movement, which again is in the beginning stages. So let me show you a couple of quick charts and then I'll be out of your hair. This is a picture of the dollar, and you can see it's extremely oversold here. So we anticipate a rally. Now again, a couple of days rally wouldn't surprise me, but if that happens, it's going to bring prices down. We had a lower high trigger in the S&P 500 this morning at 36.53, and of course the high point on today's movement was 36.44. So could we see a little bit of movement to the upside on Monday? Yeah, of course. But that just increases the probability that we get a little bit of a sell-off. Same thing, of course, true in the NASDAQ. Just we had an anticipated high today in the NASDAQ of 12,134. We got to 12,236. So those kinds of things are just telling us the probability with the dollar likely to go up. And then, of course, when we start to look at the movement in volatility, here's a picture of VIX. We can see that it hit a low point on the day of 19.5. Our mathematical low point for the day was 21. So this looks like it could be a pretty good reversal, which could bring VIX up into this 26 range. If VIX goes up to 26, prices on the market in general are going to come down. And that's going to give us an opportunity, we think, to buy into at much, much better prices. So today's movement and risk management process was simply to capture some of our recent gains, to minimize exposure to some of those risk markets, including taking down some of our foreign exposure like China, Taiwan, Japan, Finland, Denmark, things of that nature, because they're very sensitive to the U.S. dollar. And so if the U.S. dollar moves up over the next few days, we'll see those particular kinds of assets come down, which, again, we can just size up, position for the next movement to the upside, which we think will come and will participate much heavier in now that we are seeing this movement of this phase transition into quad 2 growth with accelerating inflation. So that's the setup. That's what we're doing. That's how we're risk managing the process as we move forward. We think that this is a market where the dips can be bought much more strongly than in the past couple of months, simply because volatility measurements have changed. VIX 21 to 26 is way different than VIX 26 to 31, and VIX 26 is way different than VIX 15. 21 to 26 is a chop. It provides an opportunity to buy and sell in those positions in a way that helps us to minimize some of the risk and some of the exposure. In VIX 15, everybody's a genius. Everybody makes piles of money in the U.S. equity market in VIX 15. We don't anticipate VIX 15 in the near term. We think we're going to chop around for a while. So we're going to continue to see this risk management process as we go through. But the dips will be bought much more heavily. And so therefore some of that volatility we'll take advantage of rather than be nervous of it. So if you have any questions, please give me a call, 608-354-1977, or email chris@careformywealth.com. Always thankful to hear from you. Always thankful to work for you. Again, have a wonderful weekend. Hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving holiday with friends and family. And I don't know, shop till you're careful, shop till you drop. I don't know. Be careful shopping. Thank you again. Have a great day. God bless.